Here is your latest African news. Your news highlights. Chad. Chad starts national dialogue to pave way for elections. Nigeria. Nigeria activists concerned as secular court upholds Islamic court trial for blasphemy. South Africa. South Africa's Zulu nation celebrates a new king. Nigeria. Nigeria to revoke licenses of 52 media outlets. Diaspora. Cuba bids for foreign investment to tackle goods shortages. Diaspora. Castine looks to honor local African American history in renaming offensive islands. Chad. Chad starts national dialogue to pave way for elections. Delayed talks on Chad's future that the ruling military says are a decisive moment opened despite some opposition groups boycotting the gathering. More than 1,400 delegates from the military, civil society, opposition parties, trade unions and rebel groups gathered on August 20th in the capital N'Djamena for the national dialogue that is expected to last 3 weeks. Military government ruler Mahamat Debi has said the forum should open the way to free and democratic elections after 18 months of rule by his military, a deadline that France, the African Union, AU and others have urged him to uphold. But the dialogue, which should have begun in February, has been marred by delays as Chad's myriad rebel groups meeting in Qatar squabbled over whether to attend. In the end, about 40 groups on August 8th signed a deal entailing a ceasefire and guarantees of safe passage on return to Chad. On the agenda for the talks are lasting peace, reforming state institutions, and a new constitution that will be put to a referendum. Nigeria. Nigerian activists concerned as secular court upholds Islamic court trial for blasphemy. Supporters of free speech in Nigeria are expressing concern after a federal court last week ruled that a singer appealing his death sentence for blasphemy must have his case retried in a Sharia court. Yahaya Aminu Sharif's lawyer argued his case should be tried in a secular court and challenged the legality of Nigeria's Islamic courts, which critics say threaten free speech. But the Kano State Appeals Court ruled 2-1 that Islamic law does not violate the National Charter and that Islamic courts have jurisdiction to try blasphemy cases. The ruling dismissed a challenge filed by Sharif's lawyer, Kola Alapini, questioning the legality of the death sentence. One of the judges, Abubakar Muwazu Lamido, said the challenge was not backed by law and that it was more out of sentiment. An Islamic court in Kano sentenced Sharif to death in August 2020 for allegedly circulating a song that blasphemed the Muslim prophet Muhammad on social media. In November, the Kano High Court overruled the sentence and ordered a retrial at the Sharia court, stating that Sharif did not have any legal representation during his trial. Sharia is more dominant across the 12 northern Nigerian states, with a strong base in Kano. Critics say they worry the ruling could encourage overzealous believers to take mob actions against alleged blasphemers. South Africa. South Africa's Zulu nation celebrates a new king. Thousands of South African Zulus celebrated the coronation of their new king in a rural part of the KwaZulu-Natal province in August 20th. Misuzulu Zwelithini was crowned a year and a half after his father Goodwill Zwelithini passed away from COVID-19. A controversial ceremony as some members of the royal family reject his nomination, preferring other siblings out of the late king's 28 children. The traditional rites included sacred moments such as the lion hunt and the entrance to the cattle kraal, a sacred place where the soon-to-be king is presented to the ancestors. President Cyril Ramaphosa recognized the 47-year-old king as heir to the throne and should later in the year certify the crowning. If the king of the country's largest ethnic group has no executive power, he holds great moral authority over its more than 11 million people. Zimbabwe. Racism storm as transport company boss calls black employees lizard-skinned. The chief executive officer of one of Africa's leading fuel supply and distribution companies, Strauss Logistics Zimbabwe, has been caught up in a racism storm for calling his black employees lizard-skinned. The allegation has created tension between Adrian Smarts and his employees, who are mainly truck drivers. It is also alleged that the workers are not being paid and have lost all labor cases against the employer, who allegedly brags about being connected and that no one will touch him. In June this year, the workers embarked on an industrial action, but the move has turned sour for them after the same judge granted Smarts permission to punish his employees for embarking on the job action. Smarts, through his company, rushed to court challenging the strike, arguing that it was illegal. The matter was handled by Justice Musariri, who, according to the employees, controversially handles all labor disputes between them and their employer. The judge ruled in favor of Smarts, stating that the respondents' workers did not dispute their failure to comply with the stated requirements. The chairperson of the Workers' Committee has deposed an affidavit on behalf of the employees challenging the labor court action by the employer. He told the court that he was unfairly stopped from driving his truck together with the committee's secretary. They were put on suspension pending disciplinary hearing. Last week, over 200 drivers were called for a disciplinary hearing over the industrial action after the company was given permission to punish the employees. The workers were, however, aggrieved that a new workers' committee was selected when the current one had not been dissolved. Nigeria to revoke licenses of 52 media outlets. Nigeria's broadcasting regulator on August 19th announced it will revoke the licenses of 52 media organizations over unpaid fees in a move the country's journalist union says is ill-advised. The head of the National Broadcasting Commission (NBC), Malam Balarale Ilela, announced the decision at a news conference in Nigeria's capital, Abuja. The affected stations owe the commission a combined $6.2 million, the commission said. In a press release, the NBC said it published a list of media companies owing license fees in May and gave the organizations a grace period to pay the debt and avoid having licenses revoked. Those who had not paid were ordered to shut down operations in the next 24 hours. Included on the list are about 20 state government media outlets, including some belonging to the ruling All Progressives Congress or APC party. Nigeria's Union of Journalists described the move as hasty and ill-advised. In a statement, the union president, Chris Isiguzo, said the Broadcasting Commission had failed to take action on the economic reality in Nigeria and noted that some unpaid fees dated back to 2015. The heads of some of the affected stations requested more time to pay their dues, citing a tough economic climate. The Broadcasting Commission announced some a few weeks after the regulator fined 4 Nigerian stations in connection with their coverage of insecurity. Diaspora. Cuba bids for foreign investment to tackle goods shortages. Cuba says it will allow foreign investors into its wholesale and retail trade for the first time in 60 years. The move is a major shift for the island nation's communist government and overturns a 1960s Fidel Castro policy of nationalizing retail. But Cuba is now facing its most severe economic crisis in decades, with rising prices and public discontent. The policy aims to tackle shortages of basic goods like food and medicine, but stops short of fully opening trade. Government officials said that the foreign investors would be able to wholly or partially own Cuba-based wholesalers. Economy Minister Alejandro Gil said the move will allow for the expansion and diversification of supply to the population and contribute to the recovery of domestic industry. In 1969, Fidel Castro nationalized Cuba's private wholesale and retail industry. The new foreign investment bill, however, recognizes that the country's centralized government cannot resolve its essential goods shortage without investments from overseas. Diaspora. Castine looks to honor local African American history in renaming offensive islands. A committee tasked with finding replacements for a pair of controversially named islands in Castine has chosen options that won't wipe away the history of African Americans in the community. Last spring, Castine residents voted to start the process of changing the names of Upper Negro Island and Lower Negro Island, a pair of small islands connected by a sandbar in the mouth of the Bagaduce River. The town's island name change committee has been working since then to come up with new potential names and presented their recommendations to the select board. Though the islands have been collectively called Negro Islands going back to at least the late 1700s, historians have found no conclusive origin for the name. But the committee didn't want to erase the island's connection with African Americans, no matter how hazy the association. The committee suggested two pairings for the islands that recognize the history of African Americans and Wabanaki people in the town. One option is to rename them to Esther Island and Emmanuel Island. The second option is Jackson Island and Pidianiski Island. The community will likely hold a binding town-wide survey on the recommendations this fall and send the preferred names to the federal board. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, follow, share and like our video. It's the best way of supporting us. And remember, Africa is watching.